Welcome back with another latest records purchases video. I purchased 3 records, 2 on vinyl and a box set on CD. First of all, Bruce Springsteen, born in the USA, so it's not really a deep cut, it's quite the opposite of a deep cut. It's a pretty new re-release or reissue of that album, so it's from 2024, from this year. There's a nice gatefold. I never owned the original album in any shape or form before, so I don't know if this gatefold is also the artwork for the original album or previous incarnations of this album. But this was one of the blind spots on my Bruce Springsteen list, because I have one of those greatest hits Bruce Springsteen albums, and there's like five or six tracks from Born on the USA on the best of, so I thought it's pretty redundant, and I thought that those 4, 5, 6 or maybe even 7 singles from that album that I know and that are on those best ofs, that those must be the best tracks, because those are huge hits, those are all huge hits, and how good can the other 3 or 4 tracks be? I always thought maybe they're more fillery, but I was proven wrong. So I listened to this classic album for the first time in its full length now with this reissue. And by the way, it's on, if you care about those kind of things, it's on red vinyl, so also looking good. I listened to it for the first time now. I was aware, like I said, of all the hits, of all the singles from that album, but to my big surprise, I really liked the album only tracks on that album. So I have to not re-evaluate because how can I evaluate an album that I hadn't listened before? But in I always thought for some reason that I wouldn't like this album as much, and that's also the reason why it's one of the last Bruce Springsteen albums from the 70s and 80s that I never owned yet. But I think this is my new number 3 at least, my third favorite Bruce Springsteen album, well maybe number 3 or 4. Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey will always be my number 1 Bruce Springsteen album. I know, not a usual choice. It's an album that many fans don't think of as much as me. My second favorite would be Born to Run, and I think this and The River now compete for my number 3 spot. And if you asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago, I never would have believed that this could be as good as The River to me, because also of the the 80s production of the hits. But I always liked the hits. But I have to say, the deep cuts, if you can talk with an album like that, this Thrill and Purple Rain are like the quintessential big pop mega seller blockbuster albums of the 80s, but the kind of deep cuts on that album are among my favorite tracks on the album. Downbound Train, I think I've listened to this song for the first time this week when I listened to this album, and it's one of my favorites from that album. Working on the Highway also. I'm not sure, maybe Working on the Highway, is this also on as a live version on the 1975 to 85 triple CD box, because I own this, but at least the studio version, I never knew the studio version of this song. And yeah, it's a brilliant album, also the way it's sequenced. I can really see why this was such a huge album, and by far Bruce Springsteen's most successful album. It's really great, and yeah, I love it. I really love it. I'm late to the Born in the USA party, but I might stay longer. The next is let's go on with the vinyl before getting to the CD box set I bought. This is a classic. You can debate if it's classic, but to some people, classic Kinks album that I never owned again, and it's a reissue. It's, I think, from like 4 years ago, so it must be the 50th anniversary. Yeah, it's also printed here. It's the 50th anniversary of Muswell Hillbillies. I never owned this album because, again, like with Bruce, I own several Kinks best ofs, and the one or two tracks from this album that were featured on some of those best-ofs, I never really did care much about them, as in comparison with the other, the illustrious hits of the Kinks. I own all the studio albums before that. I think Lola vs. Powerman from 1970 must have been the album before. I own Lola vs. Powerman and all the albums before that. And I also own one of those early 80s arena rock albums, with those kind of albums where they became successful in America for a short while. I think Come Dancing or whatever it's called. I'm a big, one would say I can't be a big Kinks fan because I don't have most of the 70s work. This and Lola vs. Powerman are now the only Kinks albums I have from the 70s, but I still would say I'm a big Kinks fan because I really, really love the 60s work so much. Not just the albums, also the singles, which often were singles or only singles. So I'm really a fan of the Davis Brothers. But yeah, never had Muswell Hillbillies because some say this is when they went downhill. But then again, I watched a video by James Griffiths, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels of people doing kind of the same things that I do on my channel, but he does it much better, much more eloquent than I do, of course. He has far more subscribers, of course. And he often talks about, several times he talked in his videos about how much he loves this album, and I think it's his favorite Kinks album. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, he again did a video just about that album, and that was it for me. After that, I had to purchase it after James talked about it, and I haven't yet listened to it. It's still, you still have to open it up. I will do this live on camera because some people seem to enjoy people unboxing or unpacking stuff. I never understood why, but if you're that type of person, this is for you. So nothing special, It's really standard label here. But again, it's a gatefold. Again, not sure if the original was also a gatefold, but at least this reissue is. And I think the most interesting thing that I wasn't yet familiar with is, I was always familiar with that side of the cover. But if you opened it up, it's the whole group in this pub. I guess the pub is in Muswell Hill. I was in Muswell Hill actually for the first time in my life this summer when I went to London, because I went to the concert venue Alexandra Palace to watch Suede and Manic Street Preachers live, which were great shows. And on the way back, you have to go down that hill where Alexandra Palace is on. We passed by Muswell Hill, so maybe I passed by this pub, and of course the Kinks are from that area of London. So even when we were there in Muswell Hill, I said to my girlfriend, "Oh, this is the Kinks place." So yeah, looking forward to listening to this album. And the last thing is probably the thing that I'm expecting most of from these 3 purchases. Although I have to say, Bruce Springsteen really raised the bar with this unexpected, the way I unexpectedly fell in love with Born in the USA album. But, I'm really in a big Joni Mitchell phase at the moment. And so now I purchased the Asylum albums collection, 1976 to 1980. Asylum Records, that was David Geffen's label before he started Geffen Records. I've read the biography, one of those biographies on David Geffen, which is funnily enough called The Rise and Rise of David Geffen. I think it's from the early 90s when he was at his peak, with Nirvana and everything. It's really an interesting book, but not really a nice person, according to this book, David Geffen, but really an interesting read. So, but these are the Asylum Records years of Joni Mitchell, and I recently bought and also talked about on this channel about the other. It's over there. That's why I'm looking there. The Reprise box set. Her early albums were on Reprise Records here, and I loved it, and overnight became from a someone who respects Joni Mitchell, a real fan of Joni Mitchell. So now I'm chronologically going towards the future now. These were from 1969 to 1971. These are from 1976 to 1980, and the albums between that I own them individually. So now I have all her albums from her first album in 1968 or 9 until 1980. I have yet to listen to these albums, but I'm pretty sure I will love them, because I also bought, after I fell in love with Joni Mitchell as an artist, I bought this greatest hits compilation, both sides now, and there are many tracks from these albums, and I really love also the stuff from these albums on the best of. So this is one of my missions for the next couple of months or years, to complete my Joni Mitchell collection. Yeah, great albums, also great covers, and I can't wait to listen to them. So these were my record purchases from last week. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.